VTX. Damn this, yeah.
Frank America reviews the Book of Enoch.
Who's the one, the breath of sun? Sun is dreaming like the drip, liquid gift on the mic like it's a spliff. When you drink water, who you practice, who you talk to. 1 to 4 to feet, the flip, the grip that breaks the door, the sands of time rolls through the sands, recess the mind, mind's mind, mind, mirror minds, minds look through mirrors, find, redesign the way I express my intricateness, finding through the fitness of agility with the gift of witness.
Just got done listening to the Book of Enoch. There's a great reading of it by Flatwater, Flat Earth. I'll leave a link below. And I just wanted to record some of my thoughts about the Book of Enoch after listening to it for 4 hours today. I thought it was really good. It's what's called an apocryphal book, which just means kind of like in addition to the Apocrypha. So it's not part of the classical biblical canon. And yet it discusses the characters that are just mentioned all throughout the Torah and the New Testament, as if it's all interchangeable. So my limited research, and I wasn't there, indicates that the Council of Nicea in like 300 AD, basically got all the manuscripts on a big desk in front of them and, decided what the canon was. And the Gospel of Thomas didn't make the cut, nor did Enoch, as well as other ones. You can just search apocryphal books for a whole list of that. Apocryphal. So I guess the thing I like the most about the Book of Enoch is that he was, a prophet and a visionary, and that he had these amazing visions, and then he would have these dreams, and in his dreams he was literally brought through the various levels of heaven. There are kind of like different levels to heaven, and Enoch discusses kind of traversing them. And I'll jump right in with the stuff that I thought resonated. Just hearing the angels' names, like the main angels, Uriel, Michael, Raphael, and the fourth one, I keep forgetting. I'll post it in the description. It was just cool. And then it also goes through all the names of all the fallen angels. And this whole theory of like Solomon built the temple by knowing the names of demons. You have to know a demon's name to send it away. Or I wouldn't, for in Solomon's case, it was controlled it. He was said demons building his temple, doing, God's work, because he could control them. And theoretically, you could never have done that if you didn't know their names. So while I'm not in the habit of saying the names of fallen angels a bunch, I thought it was nice to just learn them. And the one of note, there was 3 or 4 archangels turned fallen angels that were, in control of thousands upon thousands of other fallen angels. And one of them was Gabriel. And Gabriel, which I believe is spelled Gadriel. And all these angel names end in L, because that's just like Elohim. It's angel. It means angel. And forgive me, I don't know the literal etymology of El and what it means in Hebrew. But I could look that up and put that in the description too. Anyway, Gabriel was, according to Enoch, Gabriel was the serpent that beguiled Eve. So, Lucifer is actually a title. And I actually learned that from this Bones and Tubs podcast a couple weeks ago, and they're actually featuring my music right now, so go check them out. And they also mentioned Gabriel and the Book of Enoch, and then I noticed Flatwater Flat Earth did a reading of it, and I was on a long drive today, and so I was like, oh, I'm going to just absorb this entire apocryphal text. And, so Enoch was not too many generations down from Adam. And, Eve was deceived by Gabriel. Gabriel was one of the fallen angels whose title was Lucifer. And all these fallen angels, come down to earth, lust after the earth women, and, get it on with them, and make these, giants. But giants, the way Enoch put it, is that they were giants of the flesh, not of the spirit, which almost indicated that there was another kind of giantism that wasn't essentially like a bastardization of it. But that was, he just made it distinguish of what kind of giants they were. And these guys were, this is like who David threw the rock at, and they were huge, and they basically just consumed all the resources and, kind of fucked everything up. And then they started freaking out on each other and killing each other and drinking each other's blood. And it was just total sin mayhem, right? And that part and parcel was why, and I learned this in this apocryphal text, is why Enoch's son was Methuselah, and Methuselah's grandson was Noah. And one of the reasons that, not just for these giants who were called the men of great renown, men, that's what it says in Genesis anyway, which is funny because obviously, I don't know, maybe renown in that sense was historically connotative of just being well known as opposed to popular or beloved. I got to up my etymology game. I know that. So anyway, Enoch's son is Methuselah. Everyone knows Methuselah because he's lived to be, 500, 700 years. I don't know my numbers right. Forgive me. But so Methuselah's son has a son. And in the book of Enoch, he's describing, it's amazing. It's written by Enoch, but it's describing what's happening to, generations and generations down past him. Now he, at this time, they say Enoch walked with God and God took him. That's in the canonical text. And so I don't know where in the Bible. I'll have to find where it says that. But I remember reading that. And so basically in the book of Enoch, Enoch says he is, when Methuselah wants to go holler at his dad, he walks to the edge. Literally, it says he walks to the edge of the earth and calls up to him 3 times. I think I'm not sure exactly the word he chose, but it was something he repeated 3 times. Listen, I think it was, hear me, hear me, hear me. Dad. And Enoch is yeah, I'm here. What's up? First of all, the edge of the earth reference is interesting. As is the book of Enoch basically takes you through the blueprints of how everything is built. Not only is it amazingly brilliant in discussing the sun and the moon and the precession of the sun and the moon, wherein it does mention chapter 71, verse 43, book of Enoch, chapter 71, verse 43, that the sun and the moon are the same size. And then it also says that the moon, the full moon, is 1/7 as bright as the sun. So I think that's interesting. That I'm sure some, Bible scientist person has like tried to test that already, but I think that would be fascinating to like, and I don't know like exactly how you can measure the luminosity, but if there was like some luminosity meter, a spectroscope or some shit like that, I'll have to look it up. And you could be like, oh, the full moon is this bright. Oh, the sun is this bright. Oh, it's 1/7. Enoch was right. That'd be fascinating. It also kind of, the way it discusses the moon's luminosity doesn't indicate that it's reflecting sunlight. And then it also discusses the sun and the moon going through these doors or portals. And in a very precise manner describes the sun, moving through 14-day cycles until it's full for a day, and then another 14-day cycle until it's new. And that these are the 29-day months of the moon, and how many days behind the sun the moon is. It's just fascinating. Anybody who's into numbers would love that part. And then generally speaking, you're looking at the whole architecture. It's talking about like the pillars of the earth. It's talking about, also really fascinating is it gives the names for all the spirits or angels that are sort of presiding. I'm not sure if I think he used the term spirits, but because I don't want to, you're not supposed to take anything. You're not supposed to add anything or subtract anything from these holy texts. So, God, I'm doing my best. Forgive me if I misspeak, and please do your own research. Don't just think you know the book of Enoch because I'm talking about it. That would be foolish. So anyway, it's really interesting because it gives you there's like a spirit of the wind, or like a spirit of the clouds, and a spirit of, and like frost. Frost is actually like, snow has like a spirit, and its name is Frost. And that's where you get into this interesting stuff like Jack Frost, and how that's like the anthropomorphic kind of depiction of these things that maybe seemed like cartoonish or mythological, and are actually, in this case, apocryphally biblical. Just fascinating to hear all the names of the various elements in the earth, and on the earth, and above the earth. And really just, it's like you're looking, like the book of Enoch is like you're looking at all of the earth and Sheol below, and the various levels of heavens above, right? And including what's secretively going on in the middle, in the North Pole, as well as what's going on at the edges of the earth, right, out there in the back of the freezer of Antarctica. But the whole thing is like, it's like a computer animation, and you're seeing it like you know how you're watching movies or something, and it'll like be like Mission Impossible, we have to break into this 10-story building, and it'll like show you the building with all the floor plans, and you'll be like looking through it and like diving through the floor plans, and then we have to get through like the super secret safe and the thumbprint activated retinal scanner, blah 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 blah. It feels like that for this realm. Literally like one of the most brilliant like storytellers I've ever heard is Enoch. And then what's more is that these aren't stories in the sense that they're fictional. The claim is that this is what it is. This is what it is. And I think that's possibly why in the Council of Nicea they excluded Enoch, because he's referenced in the Bible. I mean, everyone knows he's Methuselah's dad, and his great-grandson is Noah. Something I just learned recently. I'm still brushing up on my kind of study of the holy texts, and I'm looking forward to going deeper into that as I move on in life. So Enoch is like, it's like you're Neo, like walking through the Matrix, but the Matrix is this realm, and instead of like showing you all the things that are illusions, he's showing you everything as it actually is. And so, when I remember reading parts of the book of Enoch years ago, way before I got into geocentrism or being a direct realist, and level Earth, flat Earth, etc. And non-rotating realm. And I remember being like, what? The sun's like jumping through like the portal. Like there's like 6 portals and it's like coming out of one portal and like it's the same portal that the moon's going in and like, but how are the sun and the moon the same size? Actually, way back then I didn't even question that. That brushed past me. But I remember thinking this part about the portals, being like, what? It's like trippy, these like portals and like, that doesn't make any sense. What about like all the scientists and what they're telling us about like what the sun is, and so I just kind of set it down. But it's fascinating to be at this progression in my evolution and to be looking at, with eyes and ears to hear, eyes to see and ears to hear, with an ear to hear. He mentions that in the book too, and being like, damn, the sun might be going through some portals. I gotta read this shit again. And then, it confirms, I looked up the one verse to make sure I got the right data for y'all. Sun, moon, same size. And then it also, it tells you that full moon is 1/7 as bright as the sun. It's just fascinatingly mathematical and scientific. And I just think it was too much disclosure. And so whoever, in Rome or whatever, 300 AD was like, yeah, I mean, we can talk about Enoch, but we're not going to put his visions out there. And what else? Some of his visions were like really hard to follow and super in depth. Other points of note, I'm not going to be too long with this one, but I'm trying to do this thing where I'm starting this like podcasting, talking to myself / to you kind of thing, where I'm going to start putting out more content about things I think, because I'm realizing that, and then I'll get back to the other main points about the Enoch review, is that I think I have kind of like I feel like my intelligence is like shooting out in all directions at once, and and yet I don't have nobody's there to listen. So it's like if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? Well, no. Sound requires, there may be a vibrational pattern being emitted through the ether, but sound is the process of it moving through an eardrum. So y'all are my eardrum, all right? And Enoch describes the north as having 4 quarters, broken off in 4 quarters. And he goes through these processions of the north. He said there's 3 parts. There's like, forgive me if I'm not nailing this, but it's like, okay, you're the ocean part, and then it's like really freaking cold part, and then it's the Garden of Eden in the north. That's what he said. And then he's like, like he was able to proceed through all these parts, and he describes like 7 islands and 7 mountains, and it was just fascinating. Like, I almost want to read that part again to you guys. I wonder if I can. Let's see if I can fire this up real quick. And just discussing this idea of like, confirming this idea of like, all right, so the Tibetans are saying it's Shambhala there. Judeo-Christian view is saying this is the Garden of Eden there. The Norse mythology is saying that it's like Asgard. And like this tree, like the tree of life is, he also describes the tree of life, in which if you are righteous in this life and walk that righteous path, Enoch mentions that you'll get to eat from that tree, which is what Adam and Eve were eating and why they were immortal until they gained knowledge of evil, felt shame, and were sentenced to leave the garden. So Enoch was really got the first one. As far as I can tell, biblically, Enoch was the first one to go back to the Garden of Eden since they were expelled. And he didn't go back like, knock, knock, let me in. He went back like in the form of a dream. You know, he was shown that. They gave him the keys. They gave him everything. And then they were like, now you got to tell your son all this stuff because he's about to have a kid who's going to have a kid who's going to be the start of the entire new seed of man on earth, which is Noah's progeny, right? So let's just see if I can fire up one passage from that. Book of Enoch, North, Garden of Eden. And I also want to say 7 mountains, because I know he mentioned 7 mountains. There was like 3 things of 7. Well, yeah, here I saw chapter 32. It's a short chapter. I'm just going to read it to you guys. And after these fragrant odors, as I looked towards the north, over the mountains, I saw 7 mountains full of choice nard and I don't know what nard is. It's probably dope. And fragrant trees and cinnamon and pepper. And thence I went over the summits of all these mountains, far towards the east of the earth, and passed above the Erythraean Sea, Erythraean Sea, Erythraean Sea, and went far from it, and passed over the angel Zotiel, Zotiel, and I came to the garden of righteousness. And from afar off, trees more numerous than I, these trees and great, 2 trees there, very great, beautiful and glorious and magnificent, and the tree of knowledge, whose holy fruit they eat, and know great wisdom. That tree is in height like the fir, and its leaves are like those of the carob tree, and its fruit is like the clusters of the vine, and very beautiful. And the fragrance of the tree penetrates afar. Then I said, how beautiful is the tree, and how attractive is its look. Then Raphael, the holy angel who was with me, answered me and said, this is the tree of wisdom, of which thy father old in years, and thy aged mother, Adam and Eve, who were before thee have eaten, and they learnt wisdom, and their eyes opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they were driven out of the garden. So I was right about the seven mountains full of choice nard. Yeah, so it's this processional, glorious kind of march through the realms of heaven, the names of all the angels, who does what and why, the spirits of all the things that happen on the earth. And it's great. And Flat Earth did a good read. His audio quality is above average, and his narrative capacities are excellent. It's like a 4-hour book. Some of the audio doubles back a couple times. One time it doubles back. There's a couple of sketch spots. It gets low at some points. I would love to do a reading of it too. However, for now, this short review of the Book of Enoch is my contribution, not meant to add anything to the text, not meant to detract anything from the text. Please check it out for yourself if you are interested in apocryphal texts. If not, no offense, I'm not trying to push this on you. I loved it, and the last thing I want to talk about is Noah. So it's interesting that Enoch resides in the heaven, accessible by the edge of the earth. And then it's interesting that Methuselah has to go to the edge of the earth to talk to him because, God took him. And then what's crazy is that, so Methuselah's son went to Methuselah, which I forget his name, forgive me, went to Methuselah and was like, I just had this kid, and he is as white as snow and also as red as a rose, and that his hair is white, and it's white as can be, and that his eyes light up like the sun, and that his countenance is glorious, and the dad is like, it's like, well, let me say it more poetic way, and then I'll go into the colloquial version. And then he's not of my nature. I'm concerned he's not of my nature, that I did not make him. He's really bugging out. So he goes to his dad and says that. And so the vibe is like, this isn't my kid. Like, who is this? So he passes it up to his dad. His dad says, it's all right. I'm going to go talk to Enoch. Going to the edge of the earth. That's what they said. Goes to the edge of the earth. Hear me, Enoch. I'm here. What's up, Methuselah? My son is flipping out. He just had this kid, and he looks like a cherub, and he doesn't think it's his, and WTF. Enoch's like, it's all good. I know all about this. Here's the reason. Your son's son is gonna have sons, and they'll be spared. There's a deluge is coming. Everyone's fucked except them. And so it is your son's son. It is him. He's special. Call him Noah. So Enoch tells Methuselah. Methuselah goes back and tells his son. His son names his son Noah. And that's just very beautiful. I'm thinking of Noah. It's like the humanization of, like, to be described is like, I'm thinking of this like sprightly, almost very ethereal, kind of angelic looking Noah, as opposed to just like this word Noah who like built a boat. Just feels so different coming from these new perspectives. And all this stuff was already here. A book of Enoch was written, what was it? Let's see. Book of Enoch written when? Obviously, I should be corroborating any of this information I'm looking up, looking it up in various places, but things that are generally accepted, I will just pull in terms of the dates of certain texts. I'll just go ahead and trust, which maybe you shouldn't do. But anyway, Wikipedia claims it's 300 BC. So 300 years before Christ, Enoch wrote this. He also, in his vision, he when he's taken to heaven, he met this man of righteousness. It talks about the sons of God and the Son of God, and this man who would and then he also like the Spirit. He's always like, praise the holy name, praise my holy name, and you never know the name, which is like goes back to that thing. It's like maybe the reason that like the Hebrews pronounce, they just write the consonants, and it's not even a name for God. It's like a name that's a name for the name of God. It's like they're always like, and it's just back to the thing I was saying about the temple and having control over the demons if you know their name. It's like maybe that's why no one can know, and I'll use the term God, although I have heard it conjectured that might have been a reference to Gabriel. I don't know. I'm not going to go there. In my heart and my intention, it means the Creator. So this idea that we can't know God's name, because how could you know someone's name? Because you would have power over it. So we can praise the name and the idea of the name, and yet maybe we can never know the name. And maybe it's unknowable. Maybe it's unspeakable. Maybe all of existence is that name being spoken. Maybe existence hangs, the vibe. How I was saying, like the vibe, like a tree falls in the forest and the vibrational pattern is emitted through the ether, but there's no ear to hear it. So it's like that vibrational pattern is like, it exists, but it's like you could, if you say you had earplugs in and you were looking around, you'd see the tree fall, right? So they're really, really good earplugs, but you wouldn't hear it. But that vibration would still be moving. Sometimes I think like all of Earth is held up by like a vibration like that. And we just can't hear it because we have these like fleshly earplugs in. And so I'm going to close on that poetic conjecture. Thanks for listening to my thoughts on the Book of Enoch. I'll leave a link to Flatwater Flat Earth's reading of it below, and another link to the text so you can look for yourself. Later. This has been a review of the Book of Enoch by Frank America.
Home and in the truth, the one that runs, the ones that spit. Like you, the crew to walk, the crew to talk, to give him pounds and dats, the cats that bless the mats, the bats and bars of golden that's the meaning forward. Wanna breathe it, press it, feel it toward, press it, feel it toward you, toward you, toward the motion that we move like the color blues in my veins. That we move, that we move, that we move is in my veins. Who's the one, the breath of sun? Sun is dreaming like the drip. Liquid gift on the mic like it's a spliff. When you drink water, who you practice, who you talk to. One, the four, the feet to flip the grip that breaks the door. The sands of time rolls through the sands, recess the mind. Minds, mind, mirror minds. Look through mirrors, find. Redesign the way I express my intricateness. Find through fitness up agility with the gift of witness to the presence of the moment. Feel the breath, the home, and in the truth, the one that runs, the ones that spit like you, the crew to walk, the crew that talk, giving pounds and dats to cast and bless the maps and bars of the golden mean that's meaning forward. Wanna breathe it, press it, feel it, always moving toward you, toward the motion that we're moving like the color blues in my veins. Like the color blues in my veins. Yeah. One, the eye to eye, the sky to be the dreaming from it. From a dreaming, always moving on and never running. Standing in my truth, the roots are grown. I'm falutin', highfalutin' with the flute and suiting up to play the news. When on a dream to gas to grass the own to find a poem. Look alone, my home. Out to heart through my vocal from the start. Where the chakras now we saw, and we found the way we got. Like I find you, I find true. Never wanna find it like an order color blue. That's in my find you, I find you. It's in my veins. When we're moving like the color blue. That's in my veins. Yeah. It's in my veins.